We often say around here, I think it's a pretty good slogan. Backup quarterback in the NFL is the 12th starter. It's worked out that way more times than you can even count. You aren't even aware of it sometimes. We're not even aware of it. It just kind of happens. It kind of happened to the Cowboys last year. Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton and the Cowboys. That was 2020. How's it going to work out in 2021? Mike Fisher talking backup quarterbacks because it's important. And the Cowboys have a gigantic decision to make there, too. Not as gigantic as the other gigantic quarterback decision. In our conversations with Andy Dalton, you've seen some of them here. He's talked about why he came here in the first place and why he might want to go. He views himself as an NFL starter. He said, I feel I can still play. I feel I can still help a team win. Hopefully, with the film that I put out this last year, people will see me that way and value me that way. Now, the film he put out, I thought was mostly gutsy but erratic. That if I was going to pick two words for what Dalton did for the Cowboys, those would be the two. He's now a free agent. Under contract for Dallas are Garrett Gilbert, who impressed in his brief opportunity, Cooper Rush, who boomeranged back here, and Ben DiNucci, who did not impress in his brief opportunity. Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco, by the way, in the Fishbowl. Thanks for joining us, as always. Thanks for being a part of a group of about 22,000 of us, Cowboy people who hang out here. Number one quarterback for the Cowboys, of course, is the number one issue. No disputing that. But who might have to / get to sub for Dak Prescott, that is an issue too. Now, we should point out, and we'll talk about this over the course of the next couple days here as we get to Tuesday's tag deadline. There are other possibilities. There's possibilities for what to do with the number one quarterback spot, but the likelihood remains the likelihood. So let's take this time now to talk about the number two spot. Andy Dalton, decade-long veteran, first-team guy in Cincinnati, came home to join the Cowboys this year in large part over COVID concerns. He's got his beautiful little family. Him and his wife, JJ, said, what if we just stay close to home? And home, of course, is in Highland Park. About 5 years ago, Dalton told me they built their dream house there. And so, did he want to go traveling around and drag the kids around and moving to a different city, or be without them, be apart from them during that COVID time? And the family's answer was no. Let's sign with Dallas. Cowboys caught a break there. He now gets to be, as he considers COVID and his family and football and opportunities, he kind of gets to be the decider now. He's kind of in charge here, in a sense, because we know the Cowboys would love to have him back, especially if there's a way to create a financial repeat of last year where, as we reported, exclusive, that it's a 7 million deal. No, it's a $3 million deal, as we broke it down at the time. Dalton's plan was to use last year as a springboard to this year, back to the top. And that's possible. Denver is sniffing around. Washington will be sniffing around. Other NFL teams might be in need. Houston might be in need too. Those kind of teams could theoretically consider Andy Dalton as a starting quarterback. So it's possible that his plan to springboard will work. It's also possible that there's not going to be that level of starting job out there or money out there. We've talked about the quarterback carousel. There might not be enough seats for all the guys who are either free agents or saying, I want to move. Part of, I think, Dallas's decision here will be philosophical. If we look back over 30 years of the Jones ownership, we've seen the Cowboys use different philosophies when it came to backup quarterback. Most often, I would say, when possible, they haven't favored the idea of hanging out there. Yeah, I think Kellen Moore probably qualifies as, ooh, cross your fingers. He's our backup quarterback. We're hanging out a little bit, to use an old Jimmy Johnson phrase. But otherwise, look at the names. They invested a first-round pick in Steve Walsh, knowing that Aikman was better, at least most of the time. The head coach realized that Aikman was better. Steve Berline, who was a really good starting quarterback in this league. A friend of the show, by the way. Went on to play in Pro Bowls after he left here. Rodney Peete, solid NFL starter. Bernie Kosar, who this team paid, what at the time, a fortune for Bernie Kosar to come here, if you recall. Wade Wilson had played in Pro Bowls. Randall Cunningham was a backup here. Then later, in a different kind of era, Brad Johnson, John Kitna, Kyle Orton. And that seems to have been the preferred style in the Jones era. Obviously, what's eating Garrett Gilbert great, he has not established that he's in that category. He is a journeyman at best and not a particularly young one. I think he'll be 28, right? As I said when they first signed him, I saw all his home games at SMU. I can see, and he's tall, and he's got a presence, and I don't think there's an arm strength problem. It just never quite happened for Garrett Gilbert. He's in the running now to be something here, but he hasn't established himself in this category that we're talking about of the Berlines and the Peets and the Wilsons and the Cunninghams and the Johnsons and the Kitnas and the Ortons. Obviously, he has not. Andy Dalton has. It's just that Andy Dalton wants to be more than that, as I think he's not yet 32 years old. So maybe in the game of quarterback musical chairs, Dalton leaves, and then Dallas goes and finds another veteran with some credentials. Now, if you're searching for a Bernie Kosar credential or a Randall Cunningham credential, you might as well go to Dalton and say, we'll pay you a little bit more. I don't know that that guy, Alex Smith, I don't know that that guy's floating out there on the cheap. Maybe you go a level down. So this would be somewhere between the Daltons and the Gilberts. Colt McCoy? I don't think Colt McCoy counts as he's a solid starting. No, I don't think that's fair. But can he bus drive you through a game? Sure. Tyrod Taylor? Anybody like him? C.J. Beathard? Anybody like him? I think now we're inching down. Colt McCoy has won games. Tyrod Taylor has won games. C.J. Beathard, I don't know that he's won games. That's the level of guy you might be at best looking at here. There's one other thing that has to be covered. Maybe Dallas uses the NFL draft, realizing, A, Dak's not long for Dallas, so an heir must be found. Again, we'll talk about that more in the coming programs. Or B, Mike McCarthy directs a continuing dart throw. I say this all the time. I've said this for years. They did it last year with Ben DiNucci, and it was a good thing to do. It was a smart thing to do. If you throw a dart at a guard or a safety with a 6th-round pick, and he turns out to be, oh yeah, he's a pretty good NFL player, good. If you throw that same dart and get a quarterback, and he turns out to be, oh, he's a pretty darn player, you've struck gold. That's why you throw darts down there. Ron Wolf's Packers always did, with great success and great rewards. So, old Sam from Texas, old Shane from SMU. I don't know where old Sam from Texas is going to go in the draft. Middle round, late round. Shane Buechele from SMU, late round. Maybe that's worth a dart throw. That kind of guy. Dalton himself says there's a lot to be decided. It's my first time being a free agent. I'm going to go through the process and weigh my options. Then he said, I've really enjoyed my time in Dallas. Now, does that sound like he's talking in the past tense? Maybe not yet. But as free agency is about to open up, Andy Dalton needs to decide on his future, and Dallas needs to decide on its priority. Fish, out.